All right, welcome back to another episode of the Cameo podcast, Civic Election Edition. It's another episode in which I am hanging out outside, but this time in someone's business. I'm here with longtime farmers market entrepreneur and city councilor. Oh my gosh, I almost called you Dennis Walsh because I had that on my mind. Dieter Dudy. How's it going today, Dieter?
It's going well.
Wonderful. And so we're standing here in your farmers market, all organic food. How long have you been in the farmers market for?
Since 1998, so 20 years.
20 years. And how long have you been on city council?
4 years.
4 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So after 16 years of, being an entrepreneur or part of the farmers market, what drove you to, run for city council?
Well, actually, it started in 2011 when I ran for mayor.
Oh, wow. Okay. That predates me.
Exactly. So when I ran for mayor, it was primarily to ensure that the mayor had somebody that was going to hold him to account, so to speak. The bug bit me. I decided that I liked it so much that I ran for council in 2014 and did well.
Awesome. Yeah, so you're running again. All spots are open, right? So
that's the way it works.
It's a fight to figure out who's going to be, one of the 8 city councilors. What are kind of the 3 main things you're kind of running on this year, or had they changed from when you previously ran?
Well, no, they haven't necessarily changed because my main focus was on the fact that what I wanted to do was offer a fresh perspective and a long-term view on things. Because you can make all the promises in the world, but it's keeping them that's very difficult because there's certain things that come into play, policies, procedure, etc. But the 3 main things that I think we need to focus on for the next little while as a council, obviously, is homelessness, the affordable housing, the opioid crisis, and economic development. So tie that all together, and the first 3, or the opioid and the homelessness and the affordable housing is something that we need to do in concert with the provincial government and work with them along with BC Housing, etc. The economic development is something we should be working on an ongoing basis with venture capitalists and ourselves.
Yeah. So Dieter might have to put down the microphone shortly. He's got a local chef grabbing some food for one of our local restaurants here. So to flip the switch completely, what drew you to organic farming? How long have you been doing organic?
Well, we've been doing organic almost since I started growing gardens, simply because of the fact that I thought chemicals and my body just don't mix. It just, the whole thought, when I was reading a label on some diazinon saying stay away from the food for 2 weeks, I thought, no, this is not something that I think we should be doing. And on top of that, we would be killing the soil. I'm going to just stop.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. So Dieter's got to help, one of his patrons, his customers. It's an inevitability of being a farmer's market vendor, which we've seen the farmer's market kind of grow and grow and grow, and it's kind of almost become a bit of a pride of Kamloops. What would you like to see happen with the farmer's market? What's the next step?
Well, it's an evolution, isn't it? I mean, I see the farmer's market continuing to grow in size and in diversity in terms of what is being offered. Right now, it's quite nice. I wasn't going to make this a political issue, but I would like to see an establishment of a public market, which would include the farmers market. It's something that's been bandied about for quite some time. Locations have been thrown out there. It's something that, as a council, perhaps we're going to need to take a look at and see whether or not it's a real benefit to the community.
Yeah, we have there's Wild Mountain June, like a young entrepreneur who started making like a kombucha variant, popped up over the summer. What sort of hurdles or things does someone who wants to start a booth at a farmer's market have to get in place? Do they need a business license? What do they have to do to kind of make that happen if you want to walk them through that?
No, effectively they just have to apply to the farmer's market. The farmer's market board takes a look at it, sees whether or not they're local, what type of product it is they're offering, and generally gives them an opportunity to come in. They pay their fee for their stall and carry on.
So it's pretty straightforward. Like, does someone need to have a business license in place, or is it just so grassroots that it's really an opportunity for someone to try something to see if it has legs?
No, the farmers market itself has a blanket business license which covers all the vendors, and you could call farmers market booths incubators.
Awesome.
It effectively allows a person the opportunity to try to promote what it is that they're either growing or producing, and seeing whether or not there's a market for it.
What sort of vendors do you think should have a little bit more exposure, or might want to shine a light on? What kind of interesting things are popping up at the farmers market that not a lot of people might know about?
Well, currently it's still mostly veg, and this bakery is relatively new, and she does a wonderful trade. I'd like to see mushrooms. I'd like to see a number of those sort of value-added type things that show up. Just right over here, Ryan.
All right, so he's going to weigh some, I think it's some yellow tomatoes and some red tomatoes. I don't really know the name of it. Hello, Ryan. Hello. I'm Nevin. I have a little podcast.
I'm Ryan from Hello Toast.
Hello Toast. All right, so Hello Toast is picking up some fresh veg for, Hello Toast. Fantastic restaurant. When my wife and I can make it in the door because it's usually so busy, that is one of our preferred places to get some food. So it's cool to see them support Dudy. It is a Wednesday morning. There's 10, 11, 12 vendors here. Quite a few people walking around supporting our local farmers market vendors. I think it's one of the last few days that the farmers market will be open. Kind of closes down near the end of October. And apologies for just kind of keeping things going. Dieter does have another customer picking up some onions right after. I'm not really sure what these are. I think they're ginger. I don't really know what they are. This is sunchos?
That's what it says.
Jerusalem artichoke.
Jerusalem artichoke.
That's another name for them, sunchoke. But I made a beautiful soup on the weekend, so.
Okay.
Just cook them down in some butter. And,
apparently, you can make them with butter into a soup or roasting them. I've never seen them before. They literally just look like ginger of some sort. Got varying types of onions, tomatoes here. We've got some Thistle Farms honey, which is actually a big thing. A lot of people are starting to beekeep, which is really a cool thing. I'd like to get a beekeeper on the podcast at some point. My wife won't let me have a beehive in the backyard, which I'm probably not prepared to do, but that's fine. And so Dieter Dudy for City Council, not Dennis Walsh. I'm a local podcaster. I have a podcast called Cameo, and I've been trying to chat with every city council candidate. Chatted with the mayor yesterday. Yeah, it's just a fun hobby. Different way of humanizing people, sharing perspectives, long-form content.
Okay, 11, please.
I'm just in my head thinking, but I don't know.
The farmers market has always long been a place where my wife and I will go and wander with the dog. Great place to socialize with dogs. They do let dogs
And there we are.
at the farmers market on Saturdays, which is not normal for a lot of farmers markets. And we have Dieter come back. Sorry for the audience for hearing me mumble along.
No.
But you just made some money. That's the whole point. You're here.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, it's a great way to connect with people. I love the social aspect of the market. I've gotten to meet some really, really interesting and neat people here.
Yeah, but you don't only make your money at the market. You also have like a delivery.
Yeah, we have a home delivery service. So
how's that going?
It's not as vibrant as it used to be. I think we found that the big boys like Save-On and that have decided to get into that game and have managed to capture more of the market than what we have. But it's still there. We still have a fairly devoted customer base and go along with that.
Yeah, the on-demand delivery is kind of the explosion of the tech world right now, right? But you were there before. It was really techy, a little bit different. My parents actually did that with like a local butcher of sorts, right? Or farmer, right? You get a half cow and
yeah. I mean, this is a variation on what they had. They used to have a program where it was I can't remember what it was called. It was effectively where you paid in advance for all the vegetables that you would get in the season, and it would help the farmer get started for the season.
Oh, okay. That's a great way of doing it. Yeah. Which, we need more farms.
We do.
But we're also seeing some interesting advancements in tech of like these vertical hydroponic things too, right? Yeah. Where we're trying to create farming in urban areas, which luckily Kamloops doesn't have to worry about. Yet.
No, we don't have to concern ourselves with that yet. People still have backyards, so they can do a lot of urban gardening. We do need young farmers, though, and it's an area that concerns me a bit because the average age of a farmer in British Columbia, anyhow, is about 60.
Yeah.
So the young people look at it and say, "Oh my God, it's a lot of hard work for not a lot of return."
Yeah.
And so we need to incentivize it somehow at some of the levels of government.
Yeah, my uncle just passed away, and his children are not farmers.
Yeah.
So there's no one there to really take the farm up aside from his brothers and going from there, right?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's definitely going to be one of the big issues is feeding people pretty soon. What's something about Dudy that people might not know that you're willing to share?
I'm a pretty good cook.
You're a pretty good cook.
Yeah.
I would hope so. Yeah. What are you cooking? Pick 3 items here and share what you would make out of them.
Well, I would certainly take the squashes from there and make an excellent apple pear squash soup. I take these onions that you have right here and barbecue them so that they caramelize inside. I would take sunchokes and either make a nice hummus or a soup with that. Potatoes that we can use smashed along with some rosemary and garlic. So quite a number of things. I mean, it's cooking is a passion for me.
Where did that passion come from?
It just developed over the years. Like I love food from seed to plate. So, and I learned from people like this. So,
is that something that? You might have to put down the microphone soon. Is that something your parents instilled in you, or
no? It came on my own.
All right. Well, Dieter's gonna have to help another patron real quick.
Hi.
And so I will continue trying to entertain you in the meantime. I've got a cute little puppy here. Not that you can actually see him, but
3 1/4, please.
We're getting some onions, some squash, a few other items. Patron's basket is quite full. I'll be the first to admit I'm not very good at using vegetables before they go bad in the fridge. But so when did you start farming? Like if it wasn't something you grew up doing, how did you get into it if a young person wanted to get into farming?
My wife and I lived down on the Lower Mainland and ended up with a fairly large lot in this house in Maple Ridge. And she had wanted to start a garden, and I had never done a garden on my own, so I dug it up for her. She started to plant things. I planted a few more things, and then it was like immediate love. We just loved the idea of having our own fresh vegetables, and it carried on from there.
How did you end up in Kamloops then?
Well, she was originally from Kamloops, and her mother was ill, and we decided to come to Kamloops, relocate here, and carry on.
Awesome. What was when you relocated? Did you immediately start at the farm, or were you doing something else?
No. I worked with Greyhound for about 13 years. I was managing their freight department and charters and that.
Yeah, it's a shame about Greyhound. Yeah. I used it to get home from college and get to Calgary, get to Vancouver, many a time, right? But I guess I didn't use it nearly as much, or the public didn't use it as much as they needed.
And that's probably why Greyhound is shutting their doors as far as Western Canada goes. If you don't get the ridership, you don't get the money to be able to operate a business.
And Dieter is getting busy. It's starting to warm up, getting closer to 9 o'clock. He's got 2 patrons getting some zucchini and some cucumbers. What always amazes me how affordable actually the food at the farmers market is, and how much you get for how little money. It's mind-blowing. I've recently become obsessed with the idea of cash business. Flipping stuff myself that I find on Kijiji or on Facebook, trying to make some extra cash here and there. And I love the cash hustle. I think it's something long forgotten is cash, and something I've just started to try and carry in my pocket.
It's interesting that you should say that. I always think that I should, because I haven't carried cash in my pocket for a long time, and I'm thinking that one day we're going to have an EMP or something like that, knock all the cash machines out, and then I won't have anything in my pocket. So it's probably a good idea to carry some cash on you on a regular basis.
It really is, and my spending is a lot more selective now that I carry cash.
Right. Yeah.
It's intentional. I can't just tap and go.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just you're going to find yourself in an emergency situation and be thankful that you've tucked a little bit of money aside for yourself.
Absolutely. What are some struggles you've had with this business, out of curiosity? Just in the type of business you're in, it can be kind of a risk at times.
Oh, very much so. It's last year is a good example of it. Ordinarily, in a given year, I'll have about 15% of my product sort of be suspect. For whatever reason, it doesn't do well. This year, for instance, my peppers didn't do well, and no real reason for that. But in any case, they just didn't work out. So I usually find about 15% of everything I do is a problem. Last year was 85.
Oh, wow. And that was because of smoke?
Well, part of it. It was, I think part of it was the fact that we had a cool spring. Then that cool spring turned into a very hot period, and plants don't like extremes. And then we had the fires and the smoke came in, which created the canopies so that the ultraviolet rays of the sun couldn't get through. It was actually cooler than it was supposed to be. And it just never seemed to recover. So stuff just did not do all that well. It was a real challenge. But each year you're faced with a challenge. It's a steep learning curve that never ends.
Yeah. Entrepreneurship is exciting, scary, fun.
Yeah.
And we need to encourage more people. So to flip the switch, right? Let's get back to City Council a little bit. How do you think you can encourage more businesses opening up here in town? Small businesses like yours, possibly cash, possibly, farmers market vendors, the people who actually are the 85% of the businesses that make up Canada.
Well, small business is inherently the lifeblood of Kamloops. You don't see a lot of industry here. You have Domtar, you had Tolko, you still have Tolko. But beyond that, it's the small business that makes everything work. And the only way that you're going to attract more small business to the downtown area or to Kamloops in general is to increase livability. So that means that you have amenities and services that people need and want, whether it's expanding upon recreational activities, whether it's expanding upon arts and in general and things like that. These are the things that people want to see. So
yeah, livability seems to be popping up a lot. What are some ways that Kamloops can, at a low cost, create some livability? Because we saw the high cost of creating a performing arts center, and that's not even an opportunity anymore. But
well, I'm not so sure. The low cost, I don't think there is anything that's necessarily low cost. Everything costs money, everything to develop. But I think once it's in place, it creates income. And as a result, if you look at the net effect, that's probably where the low cost is. Whether it's creating more walking trails and park-like situations, whether it's turning areas into more a nature park type situation. But I think we need things like a performing arts center, a public market, a arts and cultural center where people can go to, and it's a draw not just for tourists but also for your locals. And it creates vibrancy within your city. It effectively defines you, to a great extent. But that comes at a cost initially, just like anything. I mean, it's even on a personal level. If you're doing things to try to make things better for yourself at home by creating a pool or some sort of an environment that makes it comfortable for you, that's still going to have cash outlay. There's nothing that's cheap. It doesn't come cheap. If it does, it's probably not worth it.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
That's a fair point. I guess I always come from like the lean start mentality of try something now, see if there's legs, kind of like we're just off of 4th Ave, right? And you tried, the city council, I think it was the city council or the city, tried that 4th Ave project.
Yeah, the city went ahead and did that. It wasn't council that brought that, but it was the city. And yes, they tried it as a trial. It was received extremely well, and it's something that we'll look at later on. Hopefully, I'll be part of those looking at that. So,
is there a trend that you're finding of people who are just talking to you about other subjects coming up in the city council, other topics?
No, the main topics, frankly, over this last year to 2 years have been affordable housing and homelessness. It's a very real concern. It isn't restricted to Kamloops. It's all across the province. It's probably all across the country. So that's what we hear about most. Every once in a while you get something thrown in with snow removal or some of the utilities and things like that. But the primary concern have been those two things. We don't hear a lot with respect to amenities right now. Some people, I just don't think it's an issue for a lot of people at this point.
Okay.
So,
is there something you want to chat about at this point? Something that you haven't had the opportunity to chat about with other media just due to time constraints?
I think engagement. I think more than anything, I'd like to see our public become more engaged. This is the most direct form of democracy they have available to themselves. Here's an ability for the average individual in the city to speak their mind, to speak to a councillor, to speak to the mayor, to come to council and speak, and effectively create some change. I'd like to see people take more advantage of that. In the last 4 years, we've had a number of opportunities offered to the public where they could come and speak to us. Some have been received quite well. Some we've had very, very low turnouts. And it's disappointing because you really want their input. You need that. It's otherwise you're guessing at what it is that they want.
Yeah, to talk about the low turnouts, like I know there was a huge turnout for one of the cannabis forums, but then we saw the council not take into account what the public was saying, right? Do you think the low engagement was because when people do speak up, doesn't seem the council listens?
I don't know that that's a fair assessment. What it was a public hearing that stated a particular topic, and we stick to that topic because that's what has to be done. Unfortunately, the people who came wanted to speak about the efficacy of medical marijuana when that was not the issue at all.
Okay, I understand.
So it's not a case of not listening to them, it's a case of trying to keep it on track as to what we were actually dealing with.
Right, because you have to state in the agenda what the goals are.
Exactly.
I'm not one for bureaucracy, but it has to be a bureaucratic system to accomplish anything.
Well, frankly, you have to kind of follow the rule of law. So.
Totally. Well, where can people find you, learn more about you, or anything more you want to share at this point?
Well, either at Dudy at kameo.ca or come to the farmers market and speak to me just like you're doing right now. I'm always available. Check me on the Thistle Farm website. You can always reach me that way too.
How many more days is the farmers market open? It kind of closes up the end of the month, right?
We go to the end of the month.
Yeah.
Halloween is actually the last one right here.
Okay, so on the 30th, right by the downtown library on that strip.
Yeah, 31st.
The 31st, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I should figure that out. I haven't gone out for Halloween. My wife tells me I need to dress up because now that I have a kid or whatever it be.
There you go.
Well, Dieter, thanks for chatting with me, and I truly appreciate you taking the time to meet with me, even though you're busy running a business.
Thanks for accommodating me here.
Cheers. Have a great day. And if I could ask one thing of my listeners is please get out and vote on the 20th or before. There is advanced polling. Get out and vote.
Advanced polling today.
Advanced polling today, the 10th, 14th, 20th. I think that's it. So please get out and vote. If I got to ask a second thing is, share this podcast with anyone you think who might want to get to know a little bit more about Dieter Dudy in a different way, a little bit more candid, a little bit more human, and subscribe if you're so inclined, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.